What's up and welcome to Idle Insights, a show where each week I, Treavor Bettis, talk to interesting people about idle champions and Dungeons and Dragons. And joining me this week is Mark Meir and Tanya DePass. Hello! Welcome! Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
I actually think for both of you, this is your third time with me hosting at least.
Has
So,
it been three?
yeah, I know, right? I've been doing the show for a while. It's weird. How are you two doing?
Very well.
Yeah. It's weird. We haven't been on a show together in so long. We've forgotten how to do this.
This is true. Well, let me be the first to say on this momentous day, happy halfway to Halloween to both of you. On day of recording.
Yes!
On day of recording,
Yes.
it's halfway to Halloween.
Yes.
Yes.
And hey, you reminded me to say, hey, this is a pre-recorded episode, but also happy halfway to Halloween.
Also, happy May Day to all the laborers out there.
Hey, yeah. If folks in the
Oh,
chat,
and a blessed Beltane to those who
I
celebrate.
don't- what is that? What is that one?
It is the opposite side of Samhain, so it's
Oh.
a more pagan sort of holiday.
My wife probably knows that, and she's gonna be mad at me that I don't. If folks in the chat somehow don't know who the two of you are, who are you for those fine folks? Let's start with Tanya.
Hi, you may have seen me previously on Rebels Waterdeep for 5 years, which is still weird to say. And then I got to be with Mark on Black Die Society for a little over a year and a half.
Yeah.
So a ne'er-do-well on the internet, not really. I like to pretend to be one. And streaming, I now am my day job is game dev, so I don't get to do as much fun stuff, but I still like to roll dice on occasion.
Yeah. And Mark.
Hello, I'm Mark. I do voices in video games, and one of the voices that I did was Baloth Baratil from the Baldur's Gate Enhanced Editions, who is, as it happens, in Idle Champions.
My
as a
gosh.
character. Yes. I also played Brother Uriah in the Black Dice Society with Tanya, and he is also a character in Idle Champions. So I think, Tanya, correct me if I'm wrong, are we the only two people that have two characters?
I think you are.
Correct. We're the only two that have two characters. We're a dual duo.
Yeah, no, I think that is absolutely correct. I cannot think of anyone else that would. No, yeah, I was like, oh, does B-Dave? No, he's only got Freely. So yeah, you two have an honor that no other content creator with Idle Champions does. Congratulations. Before we get going into talking about Jack the Pumpkin Sprout and take this, I want to start off with an icebreaker question for the two of you. Can you both tell me about the first time you DM'd a game? Let's start with Mark this time.
This would have been way back in the 1980s, you understand. And when I started playing Dungeons and Dragons, Fiend Folio, the original Fiend Folio, was a new release. My
And an
DM
actual
was like,
folio.
"Hey," yeah. I think when we first sat down to roll up my character, that he pulled out, with the Githyanki on the cover and like showed me, it's like, this is the newest book. So that pinpoints it in time for me. So I was playing with kids that were older than me. They basically brought me on because they needed a party cleric. No one would play a cleric, so we'll get a younger kid to play the cleric. And eventually, after playing with them for a couple of years, they all left D&D behind. Some people moved away and whatnot. And I realized that if I wanted to keep playing Dungeons and Dragons in my small town, I would have to teach people how to play Dungeons and Dragons, and then I would have to be the dungeon master. And it was like that for a few years, until one of my players took over as a DM. But let's see, this would have been, I'm going to say about 1984, like right in the heart of Stranger Things territory.
Yeah.
It was the very first time that I DM'd. And it was, in a typical sort of my own invention. I didn't use a pre-written module. It was
Homebrew,
just
yeah.
like a ruined alchemist tower out in the middle of nowhere that was guarded by undead. And that was my very first experience as a dungeon master and in creating my own scenario.
Did you have fun doing it? Like, did you like, okay, I get why people DM, or was it like, I still like being on the other side of the screen?
I did enjoy it a lot, but for years the ache of, but I just want to play again. I want enough to do all the work and create the world, and I just want to live in it and experience it. But the other side of the coin does have its rewards too. Heck
yeah. Tanya, what about you?
I had to really go back into the old brain crate because I had to remember when the first time I DM'd was.
I've heard Brain Vault and like Brain Library. I haven't heard Brain Crate before. That's a new one on me.
You know why? Because last weekend I kept looking at vinyls because now I've started to collect vinyls for video game OSTs.
Oh yeah.
And so now there's a bunch of like records here. I'm like, no, which normally you don't have records around because it's all digital.
Yeah.
But it was during 3.5 at that point, and I'd been in a long running game, and we got to the point where we wanted to kind of switch it up and have a break. And people wanted to either take a week off or just we wanted something different because we've been playing for years together. I think we were almost at 20th level. So it's like every other week we would do a shorter campaign. And I was like, cool, I'm going to read direct from the book because I'm terrified of messing up. I didn't try anything homebrew because I was new to it. I was just like, I have an imagination, but I was just worried because I fell in the trap of I need to know every rule. I need to be really good. I need to know all of it. Now I'm like, rule book, who cares?
That was the right attitude right from the beginning.
Yeah, it was just like, okay, this is stressing me out because now it's like, if I don't get it right, I'm going to be more worried. So it was just kind of taking our characters, but I think at a lower level than they were in the regular campaign, just kind of messing around. And, it got me into the comfort zone of I don't have to read from the book like it's religious text. But so many people still think that a lot of people that DM'd for Rivals were like that hadn't played before or hadn't DM'd before. It's like, I must know every rule. And I'm like, no, actually, you don't. Like I point to all of us where we just look up rules. And like, there's video of most famous DMs looking up rules. It's okay.
Oh, yeah. And most of the other ones, they're editing it out, so it's fine.
Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about well, I think first, instead of talking about Jack, let's first talk about Take This. Tanya, what is Take This if folks don't know?
Take This is a 501c3 mental health charity which focuses on gamers and gaming, and there's a lot that we do in terms of fundraising. Every year at PAX, all of the PAXs, we have a booth in the PAX Together Intersection Lounge. It used to be something else. I had to remember that. And there's fundraising, there's ways to support, there are stream ambassadors, which I'm one of, as well as the board chair. And we just provide resources so people addressing burnout, dealing with parasocial relationships, which you've talked about, and I know you've talked about it on the other show with Dr. B and Mitra. And being a resource for gamers, for streamers, and realizing that you don't have to be alone. As the saying goes, don't go alone, take this. So I'm very proud of doing that. So fundraising, and now for some reason they let me be the board chair.
For some reason, not at all that you're an amazingly awesome person who is perfect for the role.
I try.
Yeah, and we at C&E have partnered with Take This on several things, including these familiars to help do donations for Take This. Tanya, you did one a few years back with it was the doggo. What was the doggo's name?
It was Fenris, who was Salisa's familiar, and then when Black Dice was on, we did Izzy the Bat.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about Izzy.
I believe Izzy is the only bat familiar as well.
Ooh, you've got so many awards and you got achievements in Idle Champions. You're like, that's mine.
Yes. I would like all my awards, please.
And this year, in fact, right now, as you all out there in chat are watching this, not you later on YouTube probably, but right now in chat, the Jack the Pumpkin Sprout is available in game, and purchases of Jack for the first week. So you have from now, if you're watching live, to Monday to purchase Jack, and the proceeds of those purchases are going to be donated to Take This. And you may be asking yourself, who's this Jack the Pumpkin Sprout? And well, I think I'm going to turn to Mark. Who is Jack the Pumpkin Sprout?
Well, now, as a longtime fan of the Black Dice Society, Trevor, I'm sure you remember.
The Black Dice Society. That sounds so familiar. If only there was some podcast where... No, I'm just kidding.
So yes, the Black Dice Society was, of course, our Ravenloft campaign. And as mentioned, Brother Uriah, my character from that campaign, is in the game. And he actually, I also have a familiar in the game already, one of Mangata's hatchlings, the Moonstone Dragon.
Yeah.
I think that was with the wedding skin. I think that's when...
Yes, it was.
Yes, for the Uriah and Nahara's wedding skin. that Mangata came with as familiar, but this is my second familiar in the game. And it's based on my time as a dungeon master at the Black Dice Society. There were a few occasions where B-Dave had other commitments or needed to bow out. And once I just got to do it because it was my birthday. And essentially I had a little scenario that was very reminiscent of Washington Irving's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, with, you know, a Doulahan or Headless Horseman included. But one of the gifts that the Black Dice Society was given to deal with this Doulahan were these little pumpkin seeds. And this was actually something from a previous edition of Ravenloft stuff with Dungeons and Dragons. Little pumpkin seeds, which when planted in the soil of Ravenloft, grow these little things called lantern jacks. And they're essentially little pumpkin-headed plant men who will assist you. And they certainly assisted the Black Dice Society, because I think in our game, everyone had planted their seeds and got one of these little guys, except had Fen planted her seed? I'm trying to recall.
I want to say Fen refused because they're like, you're not going to trick me.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yes. So I had this built in that the Lantern Jacks could essentially combine and form a shambling mound. So because Uriah didn't put his seed in, because I'd sort of taken him off stage as an NPC, because, you know, just to cut down the talking with myself portion of the show to a bare minimum.
But you're so good at it.
Yes. But also I didn't just want to be no time for you guys to talk because I'm doing all the but that meant that only 4 of the seeds got planted, so it was just a standard shambling mound. If all 6 seeds, it would have just gotten increasingly stronger with each additional seed. So, but as it turns out, we were running near the end of the show, and that what normal shambling mound was enough to take out the Doulahan by knocking it off a cliff.
Heck yeah.
Yes. So that is where Jack the Pumpkin Sprout comes from. He is, in my mind, he is the seed that Uriah never actually planted, so he was able to keep it. It wasn't destroyed fighting the Doulahan. So yeah, he, although he never actually activated it in game, that is my headcanon.
I like that. So was this when Cini approached you about doing a familiar that was specifically going to be for charity with Take This? Was that like the first thing that popped into your head, or did you have like other possible ideas in there, or was it like,
yes,
I want to do the Pumpkin Sprout?
Well, when we were discussing it, the first thing is like, the Moonstone Dragon, of course, because Uriah had a relationship with them, and then V had to remind me, it's like, you did that one. You did it for the wedding skin. I was like, oh, right, yes, of course. So when I was casting about, it was like, I still wanted to probably have it something linked to Uriah. Baloth, I considered, but I think for a nice charity such as the one that we are supporting, I think a lawful good healer is probably the best representative for that.
Yeah, most likely. I agree with that one.
Baloth can represent other charities, like more sinister charities. But yes, that is. So when I was thinking about that, that's when I realized that Uriah never actually used that pumpkin seed on that fateful night of. They don't call it Liar's Night in Darkon. It is the Festival of the Dead. Yeah, so that's rather than or Halloween. So that was from the Halloween special of the Black Dice Society that I was the DM for, and that is his origin story. And of course, there is also, if you grew up in Canada in the 1970s and 80s, maybe in parts of the States as well, you might have been familiar with a little guy called Peter Pumpkinhead, who was a Halloween safety mascot.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's certainly that inspired me as well.
Oh, I like that. That's really cool. Well, if we see Brother Uriah again in some other show in the future, maybe Jack will come along with him.
That's true. I mean, he's still got the seed in his pouch, theoretically.
It's true.
I never clear out my inventory. I'm still carrying around torches from when I was level 1.
Oh man, gotta love that. That. Not going into full detail, that happened recently with another player in my group, and realized that session he had something from the first session on him, and that came into not only just the perfect play later that game, like completely spotlit a moment that he just forgot he had the whole time.
Oh yeah. When you make your character, you add things to the inventory, and it's just like, I've been carrying around a bag of 1,000 ball bearings like for how many years now?
Yep. Yep. Check your inventory, chat. You
These
never
10
know what you're
iron
going to find
spikes.
in
I've never
there.
used even one of these 10 iron spikes.
Or the 50 feet of rope. When have we ever actually used 50 feet of rope? When?
20 feet would do. 20
Yeah.
feet would be
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
My
'Cause 50
favorite is
feet of rope would be heavy.
a level 12 player looking at their sheet going, "What's a pitten?" Just a thing you've had since day one. So Tanya, what does these donations allow Take This to do?
It allows Take This to do things like create resources for people who may be facing burnout, who may be having questions about, mental health questions, or keep the site running, keep the group going. And again, if you do enjoy going to PAX, the Take This AFK room is a source of quiet oasis when cons can be too much. And I'm not sure the exact cost, but they're not cheap to run.
No.
So, for a 4 or 5 day con, including the staff to run it, also the table, usually in the PAX Together intersection room, the cost of a presence at PAX or any other event can run into quite a few $1,000s. So things like that, also for the staff, it keeps staff employed. And just have great resources. We have the ambassadors. Ambassadors are not paid, but there are plenty of stream ambassadors who talk about mental health in their streams, are a source of if you're having a problem, with the caveat that we are not mental health professionals, or even if we are not your mental health professional. Just the ability to be a resource in the community for gamers who may have mental health questions, concerns, or just I'm struggling, where can I go for help, and lists of places to look into, because a lot of times people are struggling and don't realize it. They don't realize what's going on. And if there's somewhere safe that they can either ask a question, ask resources, you don't get that a lot with streamers or content creators.
Yeah. I want to highlight the AFK room there because I do think that's something that folks can look at and just be like, oh well, how does that cost money? It's just a room with some bean bags and stuff. And it's like honestly the biggest thing there for me is the fact that Take This has staff there that are maintaining it, and that's one of the really important things, because I've heard horror stories of other events that have tried to do AFK adjacent things, and there was no one there to take care of anything or whatnot, and they just turned into horrible messes. And so Take This putting in the funds to have people there to make sure that the room is safe is a really big deal. And I know that I'm pretty sure one of the first charity events CNE did with Take This specifically highlighted the AFK rooms, this is what we want to do with this. And so that those get to happen because of donations like this. So chat, if you can, very much recommend picking up Jack the Pumpkin Sprout. And you know what, if you're like, I don't think that's enough, there are many other ways to donate to Take This and help them out, because they really do help out this community. Yeah, go ahead, Denon.
I was going to say, for a lot of people, going to a convention is great, but sometimes you get there and it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
There's too much people. Or maybe you go to a panel where you thought it was going to be about one thing. Maybe it was upsetting, triggering, and I mean triggering in the actual psychological sense, not the way people try to make a joke out of it, which isn't cool. Because you never know how something's going to hit you in the moment, or you have a bad experience, or you're just like, my hotel's too far, I have people too much, I just want to lay on a beanbag, or I want to color and not talk to anyone. Because there are quiet rooms, there's tea, there's snacks, and no matter your age or what you need, sometimes just sitting in a quiet room where no one's going to bother you, there's no one around, it's dim and it's cozy, is the perfect thing.
Heck yeah. Yeah, so again, chat, check out Jack the Pumpkin Sprout in the shop right now. I remember first week, so you got till Monday to pick that up and help out. But because Jack has this tie to Black Dice Society, and we have two of the awesome cast here, I just wanted to take a moment, kind of as what was that like working together on that show?
It was a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite campaigns ever. I had a really good time, and getting to meet everybody that I played with as well. it was a great group that B Dave put together.
Put out the call. He put the B-Dave
Yeah.
signal in the sky.
Yeah, and Mark, correct me if I'm wrong. I think B Dave said everyone he asked said yes. Like there was no, oh, I gotta think about it. We all said yes.
Yeah, yeah. I remember talking to B Dave while he was putting all of that together, and he was just so giddy because he's just like, I got all these awesome people. It's gonna be so good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Oh, go on.
and I was gonna say, for me, it was fun because I got to be a little darker. I didn't get to
Yeah.
be I didn't get to be goody two shoes. And also just having met Mark in person at D&D Live and then getting to like hang out and do a show every week. I was like, okay, all of my nerdy friends hate me right now.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, when I got the call from B Dave, I was like in a pharmacy, I think. I think I was buying Christmas cards because as I recall, yeah, it was like the December before that I got this call. And I let out like a whoop because as soon as I heard Ravenloft, it was like, in the store, I was like, oh, sorry. Sorry. And here, the funny thing is, when he first mentioned it, I thought I was just going to be playing Assel and Rex. Like
Oh.
I was already like thrilled. It's like, oh, great, I get to play one of my favorite villains. And then about a week before the first meeting, B Dave was like, you haven't made your character in D&D Beyond yet. And I was like, wait, but I'm what? And I didn't realize I was part of one of the player characters. So when I went to sign up, it's like, everybody's taking everything cool. It's like, and I gotta be the cleric again. It's just like my very first experience with D&D. Nobody wants to play the cleric. Fine, I'll play the cleric. But Brother Uriah ended up being one of my very favorite characters.
I mean, I'm biased. I edited the show every week and heard y'all doing the amazing work you did. But y'all just made some of my favorite characters that have been in D&D. Like I every time I make a character, it's just like I hope this is as cool as one of them. Well, you mentioned something there, Mark. That you said you haven't made your character yet. So did you all make your characters separately from each other? Like
Yeah.
you didn't talk ahead of time about it or anything? That is, I didn't realize. I thought it was like you all had gotten together to talk about like what kind of characters you wanted to make and stuff. That's impressive, honestly, that you all had that like cohesive of a group, and even just like story wise for each other and fit together really well for just
Yeah.
making them separately.
I mean, they existed like as full-blown characters when we sort of started we did have a brief chat because we just knew who were native Ravenlofters and who were being brought in from the Prime Material plane. And that was the point where I found out it's like, oh yeah, Tanya is going to be a Ravenloft resident. So we got the idea. It's like, yeah, there should be some connection between the two of them. And then of course that in play turned into Fen having rescued Uriah when he was like a kid from the collar. So yeah, those relationships really evolved well, especially considering, as you say, we just created all our characters separately and then brought them to the table.
Yeah. I guess, like, to be fair, like, thinking about it, my groups even made characters together sometimes that they don't fit together that well. But it was a real treat watching you all develop not just as a group, but like, together as friends and stuff, both in character and out. Cause like, you could tell that you all got along and everything. There was good chemistry there with that. And the ability to play these characters who were not like on the alignment track that most D&D shows are. I mean, like Tanya, like you said, you got to be a little bit darker. Like, was that a difficult shift to make?
Oh, not at all. Not in the least, because like at that time Rivals was still going when we started.
Yeah.
So, I was playing a paladin, and then Sleece dabbled in Blood Hunter a little bit, and that worked out much better for Sleece than did for Fen. But it was like, I want to play a dark character. I always like playing in the morally gray aspects of things. And while Fen wasn't just straight up evil, depending on who she was around, I wanted to play a character that was inherently not a good person. One, to challenge myself, but two, knowing B Dave, knowing Mark, and knowing DJ as long as I have, I know that I could bounce off of them. And DJ and I being friends, outside of the show before we got together, we had that kind of sibling bond anyway, and that showed in our characters.
And actually, for me, it was a bit of the opposite because I was, my other character in the game, Baloth, is chaotic evil. So,
Yeah.
and I would tend to play sort of darker characters. So, it was funny. It struck me as a funny idea to go play the opposite to Ravenloft and just be like lawful good and a scaredy cat, and essentially Ichabod Crane complete with tricorn hat. And yeah, and it worked out really well, and I really enjoyed the character.
God. Yeah, I remember the first time hearing your brother Uriah voice and just going like, God dang it, that's perfect. And, right off the bat. Oh man, I had a thought in there about it, but y'all were just talking about it, and I was thinking of all these episodes that you all did, and they were just they're just so good. Well, actually, Mark, you were saying the Aslan Rex that you were excited to get to play that. When you were making the character though, like, did you have the thought in your head of like, well, this is also kind of Aslan Rex? Like, did you bring that up to B-Day, or is that something that got brought in later with him being like a clone and stuff?
Well, okay, I'll admit I am very well versed in Ravenloft lore.
I know, because I learned
editions.
something from you about the lore every time you're on this show. I didn't know about Liar's Night, and now I'm like, okay, well, I know that.
So when we first started talking about it, and when I, clued into the fact that I'm doing a player character, I'm like, oh, great, okay, so I've got to create him. The idea of how then, because I thought I'd just be like getting into full makeup and prosthetics and being Aslan Rex. So how do I play both Aslan Rex and this character? And I wanted a connection between the two of them. So like the clone thing, I will admit, it came to my mind fairly readily. The character didn't know that, of course, until it was revealed in the game. But yeah, I definitely wanted to tie Uriah into the Aslan Rex lore. And Darkon was always one of my favorite domains, and like even with the old gazetteers and whatnot, because of course Barovia is great, but it's like it feels like everybody does Barovia, and also the fact that Darkon allowed you to layer in more of the trappings of Dungeons and Dragons, like more typical fantasy elements than the gothic horror that you usually associate with Ravenloft. So yeah, getting to play both Uriah and Aslan at the same time, sometimes in the same scene, that was a real treat.
It's like, oh, I'm only playing Aslan a little bit, but what if I didn't? And Tony, Fen was part of the circus. What was that one? What was it called?
Oh wow!
Oh, the carnival.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Witchlight
the
Carnival. No.
That was
there's the Witchlight Carnival, and then there's Isolde's Carnival.
Isolde's.
And then they both became, they became somewhat interchangeable because they literally switched places. So
yeah.
Oh, actually, funny enough, my wife bought a little booster box of the minis like last year or something like that, and she was opening them up, and she got us sold. I'm like, it's Fen's girlfriend.
Oh yeah, I mean that's how I think of that character now when I see art or the mini or whatever. It's just like, oh yeah, that character that we met in our adventure. Like that's Fen's significant other.
Mini. I need the mini now. I didn't know there was a mini.
Yeah, and she's holding the pen. Yeah,
I need this.
Yeah, it's one of the WizKids ones. The pre-painted what do they call them? Icons of the Realms.
Yeah, that's the one.
All right, I might need to find someone with a 3D printer.
Let's switch gears a little bit here. Mark, can you tell me about Improvised Dungeons and Dragons?
Oh, well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's improvisers playing Dungeons and Dragons, but rather than sitting around a table, we're like fully in costume with all our equipment and everything and acting it out. I am the dungeon master for these shows. And currently I'm doing a run of it at Rapid Fire Theater in Edmonton, where it was originated by me, this particular format. I should mention that there are improvised Dungeons and Dragons shows throughout the world. And up here in Canada, there was a long-running one at the Winnipeg Fringe Festival. And I actually approached them to say it's like I was thinking of starting my own with the, and they're like, yeah, we don't know Dungeons and Dragons. It's basically people who love Dungeons and Dragons and people who improvise. It's a one of those circle Venn diagrams.
Yeah, there's no little peeking. It's just one circle.
There's maybe not everybody who improvises plays Dungeons and Dragons, but most people who play Dungeons and Dragons have done some improv, I find, some way or another. And you're certainly improvising every time that you're at the table. So this is, again, fully acted out, and it is comedians and improvisers who are playing the characters. So you tend to go for laughs. And this is a show that I've done at festivals like in London, England. I've done it there. Certainly at Dragon Con with Dad's Garage Theater, and at Dad's Garage in Atlanta as well. It's one of my favorite formats. I do a lot of improv and I play a lot of D&D, and this merges the two of them together. So I've been doing this since, let's see, I first started it here at Rapid Fire Theater in 2010.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we play, we're at the point where they actually do it more frequently in Atlanta, because every year they do a run of it, usually an 8 to 10 week run, and I often fly down to be the dungeon master for their opening and closing episodes.
That is fantastic. This isn't just because you're Mark Meer and you're Commander Shepard. Legitimately, you were just like, since 2010, I'm like, oh yeah, the year Mass Effect 2 came out. That's just my brain.
It is true. That is the year Mass Effect 2 came out. And we've had all kinds of fantastic guests. Colin Mockery has played with us both in Atlanta and in Edmonton. He is brilliant. He plays his character, and he'd never played Dungeons and Dragons before, but he's just a brilliant improviser. And he's cracked me up so many times. He plays Brother Bartholomew, who is a cleric of Chad, the god of sensible footwear. And of course, over the course of play, and he's had entire character arcs. He was kidnapped by a night hag for a while,
as you do.
Yeah. And Colin has just been amazing. We've also, of course, Dad's Garage Theater is home to some fantastic improvisers, including Lucky Yates and Amber Nash, who respectively played Krieger and Pam on Archer, and their characters are both hilarious. Amber plays a half-orc wizard named Krogra, named after the Krog Tunnel in Atlanta. And she basically just does herself up in amazing makeup, just like Agra from the Dark Crystal. It's really something. It's really something. And Lucky plays a thief by the name of Lucanus, and it's sort of spelt like Lucifer.
Okay, yeah, that tracks.
Yes, it is very on brand for Lucky Yates.
I almost said before you said, like, is this something we can say on the show? Because it's Lucky.
Well, I didn't say that word. I said a name.
It's true. Yeah, if anyone else heard that, you're wrong.
His other character is a brilliant, it's a very bright red cardboard dragon puppet who's like a dragonborn named Cardboardius the Green. And it is because he thinks he's green, because dragons don't see in the normal human spectrum.
That I love all of that. Everything you just said is now my favorite thing. as someone whose childhood was mainly watching reruns of Whose Line Is It Anyways on ABC Family, I now need to see Colin Mockery playing D&D. That is my new goal. Mm-hmm. But one of the questions that I want is, like, is this, are you all like still rolling dice and stuff? Like, is this still just like straight up D&D but with improv comedy, or are there changes to it?
As I say, fully acted out, and much in the way that a dungeon master would do the same at a table. I literally play everything else in the show that isn't the player characters. So I am all of the monsters, all of the NPCs, including like their mentors and whatnot, and whatever, the innkeeper, etc., etc. And more than that, we're acting it out. Sometimes we have projections, which are random wandering monsters. We had a bunch of friends of ours do up art of various monsters, and the technician literally has it on a randomizer, so it just like what monster is going to show up. And as far as dice rolls, even though so they all have character sheets, and most of them have like D&D Beyond character sheets, they know what their characters can do. When I created my particular version of this format, I decided dice rolls were just going to slow it down, or it's not necessarily what I wanted. There are other formats that completely incorporate dice rolls into improvised Dungeons and Dragons, but with me, I kind of based it more on some of the diceless RPGs that are out there, and I usually just make the call based on, like, I know that the barbarian is strong, so he probably pulls this off. Or sometimes, they're at a critical moment, their sword glances off the enemy's armor. Usually the adventure that we're doing is not the actual point of the show.
Yeah.
It's more like a workplace sitcom. So either when they're at the tavern or around the campfire or some moment where they're all talking, the conversation between the characters will determine, it's like, okay, it becomes pretty clear to everyone. And again, they're experienced improvisers, so everyone clues in. It's like, okay, I think this one is about the dwarf fighter not wanting to go home and see his relatives, or this one is about the barbarian learning to accept that not everyone can wield an axe, or that that becomes the actual crux of the story. And like whatever monsters I'm throwing at them, in a large sense, it's window dressing, and it's mostly, as I say, a workplace comedy.
Oh my God, that is so cool. I very much want to see one of these now. I love improv comedy. I love D&D, so I mean, it's perfect.
There's a few online. If you look up like Dad's Garage, Improvised Dungeons and Dragons, I think we've done it at Dragon Con a number of times. So like there's more Dragon Con centric episodes that are out there, and there's certainly Rapid Fire. I think the one that we did with Colin during the pandemic. So it's more a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, that's
but we're cracking jokes all the way through it. And that's up on the Rapid Fire YouTube channel.
Is Rapid Fire like the name of the group, or is that like a style of it?
No, that is the name of the theater.
Okay.
Rapid Fire Theater here in Edmonton, Alberta.
I thought it was just like, you know, you got like speed chess. You're like, we're doing speed improv. Like, you got a timer. You better make a joke. Well, Mark, that's what you've been up to. Tanya, you've been up to some well, I'm just saying, a lot of Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah.
How has that game been treating you?
So question, which run would you like to hear about, or would you just like to hear how many hours I've put into this game so far?
Well, I mean, we got to hear hours first. I mean, let's be honest. What are you at?
Hold on. Steam is open right next to me. Because I was playing this until we started recording. I'm afraid to look. I know 733 hours.
Wow, that is awesome. So how many runs do you have?
Fully completed runs are 4.
Holy crap. I've gotten through, I'm gonna say 1 1/4.
Well, so there's 2 things about it. One, my first run was like just all the way through, explored, no spoilers, no one tell me anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the 5th time, I'm like, I'm modding this thing up. I just want to.
Yes.
I have so many mods now that I figure out how to do that. But also, even with mods, even with all I am still finding new things.
Oh, really?
So I found a spot literally today where I'm like, where does this go in the goblin camp? And I wound up like out in the woods somewhere that I had never found. So this game is massive. I don't know if anyone will ever 100% it, because there's just so much to do.
When that game came out, there was a lot of folks who were trying to like I gotta see everything. I'm like, no, you are gonna probably play this game more than once. One, it's impossible task to see everything as it is, but you want to leave some stuff so you can still be surprised on those other playthroughs. And you're 5 playthroughs in, and you're still getting surprised with stuff. That is wild.
So, I mean, one, I haven't. My goal is to do a run of each origin character.
Mm-hmm. Oh wow.
So I've done Gale, Astarion. I had to restart my will because I lost the save, and same with Karlak. And with Karlak, Sam Bayard was like, play as Karlak, but go dark.
Oh.
So like be more of like a darker Karlak, because Karlak actually, like, they seem happy-go-lucky, but really are they? And then today, one of my friends, because I'm doing some charity stuff, it's like, okay, for a donation, I want to see the Astarion Ascension scene. They'd never seen it. They'd never made that choice. So slight spoilers. But they'd never seen the whole what happens with Astarion once he makes that decision to kill Cazador and take his place. and I went through. Luckily, I had to save right after you defeated Cazador because I didn't want to do that fight again. Because that's with every update, they're like, "Oh yeah, you can't cheese this fight anymore." I'm like, damn it. But I had one where basically you just defeated Cazador, but you haven't made a decision. And so I did the Ascension for them. And also, it's just as a credit to Neil's voice acting and acting in general, the literal change of how evil Astarion turns when he's turned.
Now I gotta see
When he's
that.
ascend. I will send you a timestamp if you don't want to do it yourself. And it's funny, every time I do like darker things in games, I think of you, Mark, and how you voiced Aslan.
Well, thank you. And actually, I believe that Neil doing Vecna now. Is
Yes, he did
Yes.
Vecna in that the trailer for the new campaign. That was one of those times, like I love voice actors and I love the ability and range that they have, but I'm always trying to like listen for it. And when the Vecna trailer, I'm like, is that Neil? I got so giddy about it.
Vecna video game now, I say. Now.
Ooh.
Oh, people would know how to act. Like, all of the monster appreciators came out of the woodwork, shall we say?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I know
Monster appreciator. I'm telling my wife that one after the show.
Withers was getting a lot of love, as I recall.
Oh my God, Withers.
Dude, okay. So real quick one. Withers burned me so bad. Like, so I decided at one point, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna change Shadowheart. So I switched over to her and I went up to Withers. I'm just like, I'm just gonna change class. And I go up there, and he's just like, you walk a lonely path, don't you? And I'm like, what? I just came up to change my class, dude. Like, he's just like, I mean, like, you could probably find somebody. I'm like, I'm just trying. What are you doing?
Withers is so rude. Because
So
if you
rude.
are, with someone, then he's like, oh, you and your bosom companion. I'm like, are you spying on me? Like, what are you doing? I know you're like right there, but must you be? And also, Mark, this is a question you answered on Twitter because my friend and I asked this. Withers is a lich.
Yes.
But he still has like, there's no better way to say it, but like a fully moist tongue and eyes.
Sure.
Explain this. I'm like, he's a lich. He should not have eyes or a tongue because
bodies decay at different rates.
Mark.
He may one assumes that it's like
Tanya, it's time to have the lich talk.
He may have taken precautions before his death, maybe, preserved his tongue and eyes. Who can say?
I don't know, but it
Oh,
was
Lord.
one of those early things where a friend of mine, she asked on Twitter, and then I was like, Mark, here's this question because this is a you question.
Now, what did I say? I can't remember what I said on Twitter.
I'd have to go look for it, but I think you gave a similar answer of like, well, he's a lich. I don't see why not.
It's one of those things with D&D.
Power. He can bend the laws of physics.
He
Yeah.
can bend a whole lot. And it's like, I want to talk about Withers, but also that's a major, major spoiler, or people haven't figured it out yet, who Withers is.
Ooh.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yes.
I will say, though, that there's a fair bit of Withers thirst out there. And,
Oh, there is. There is.
and I think it's largely because people want what they can't have. It's like, in a game where you can have intimate relations with most characters, including a Mind Flayer, people are like, why no Withers? Why not Withers? Why not Zoidberg? Where's Zoidberg?
Why not Zoidberg?
Well, Zoidberg is the Mind Flayer, yeah, but
No, we have referred to that now as enjoying the calamari.
oh, I see. Yes.
Oh boy.
And and actually just recently, like we just saw that with, I don't know if you've watched Fallout yet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I forget
But the amount of desire for Walton Goggins as a noseless
Okay,
fool
but
is,
I
very
mean,
high.
I do feel like there's a percentage of that is it's Walton Goggins, but at the same time,
That's
there
true.
are some monster appreciators out there that are having a great time with that.
That's true. Walton Goggins is fantastic, but I didn't see this kind of heat coming for Baby Billy from the Righteous Gemstones, and that's a great character. But it's like, no, I think it's the lack of nose is the feature, not a bug in certain cases.
Yeah.
The undead appearance is like, oh no, that's the icing.
I mean, just put it this way: Baldur's Gate has made, because who's the Drider in the
Oh, I don't
in
remember
Act
their
2?
name.
Carnus.
I never
He's
would have
the
got that. Yeah.
as many hours I've spent in this game, I better know all the lore. But Carnus also has their group of appreciators, shall we say?
Oh,
And I'm
yes,
just
I can see
like,
that.
I'm too arachnophobic.
Yeah, I'm like, that's a bridge too far for me. I've got too much arachnophobia for that. Mm-mm.
Yeah, yeah, it's, you know what, but more power to people, lungs are not harming anyone. And also, it's just hilarious because I love how much Dave Jones leans into the thirst for Halson. He is also a large man in person.
Good.
So he
Good.
is very much like, oh, you are a bear in real life. But he's lovely. And I just enjoy watching the people go, oh no, he saw this. And I'm like, he doesn't care. Mark, did you since we're talking about random thirst, what's the oddest thirst thing you ever saw from Mass Effect fandom, like Hanar or
Oh.
I mean,
Brogan?
again, it always comes down to people want what they cannot have. So people are really pulling for example, like, why can't you romance Legion? Why can't you romance Morden? So yes, that seems to be, and Batarians actually. It's like
I was like,
Really?
don't tell me a Batarian, man.
Yeah,
Oh
I have fan art to show you.
Oh no, please don't. Please don't.
no, we see the fan art once we stop recording. I want to see this.
Sure.
I need to see this now because
I don't
Batarians were
actually
not
I don't
on my
actually
list.
have it. I could probably just Google Batarian, and yeah, you know the search terms.
Batarian appreciators. I think we broke Trevor.
A little bit. This is a great show. I'm so happy with this.
Oh man. Oh.
Okay, well, we got some time right at the end. Mark, you got one other thing that you told Tanya and I about before starting, and we didn't even know this was a thing. You're doing D&D in a castle in the States.
That is correct. D&D in a Castle has decided to have an event on U.S. soil. And I should mention, of course, like the castles that we play in the UK and Europe are, of course, authentic, traditional castles, and the ones that are in the States were built by eccentric rich people. So they do actually have more of a fantasy feel to them, I find. And so the very first one is at Landall's Castle in Ohio in July. So I'll be doing the inaugural one. But they also have 2 events in August. And I'm pretty sure B-Dave is DMing at least one of the August ones.
Yeah, I know B-Dave's doing some D&D in a castle.
I know V is going to be doing the one in July with me. And yeah, so fantastic folk. Who else? I think Mr. Jeremy Cobb is going to be at the July one with me from Three Black Halflings, and I don't have the thing in front of me. Or all the fabulous people that are going to be there.
Well, if folks,
Elisa, I think Elisa Teague is going to be there too.
If folks in the chat don't know like what is D&D in a castle, because like it's kind of assumed it's like you're playing D&D in a castle, but there's a little bit more to that. Like what is this event?
It's basically 3 solid days with an arrival day and a departure day on either side of that. Of playing a Dungeons and Dragons campaign with folks like me or the ones that I just mentioned. And we've been doing it at Lumley Castle in the UK for the last few ones that we've done on British soil. But as mentioned, this will be the first time in America. So I'm actually quite looking forward to seeing the venue as well, because it looks pretty cool.
How many hours in a day do you all play for?
8 hours a day. It's a 24-hour campaign over 3 days. And we basically break to eat lunch and break to eat dinner, and depending on what your schedule is. With me, you'll probably be playing in the afternoons and evenings. I will let their players have the mornings to themselves so that I may sleep like the vampire I am. But even when you're not actually active in your campaign, I know that at Lumley Castle there were events like archery and falconry and all kinds of stuff that was going on in between. Miniature painting workshops, I know V has led a few of those in the past. And yeah, it's basically hanging out an intensive D&D campaign that lasts for 3 days with all your other needs taken care of because you're staying at a nice hotel.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I mean, let alone getting to play with the incredible people, like having that very nice venue and everything, getting to feel the fantasy. That sounds awesome.
Mm-hmm. And as I say, there's more of a fantasy feel to the castles in the U.S. because they were not built hundreds of years ago, but they were built by people with time and money on their hands, and then turned into hotels eventually.
Well, hopefully this one has as cool of a cat as the one in the UK does.
I don't know. Poppet sets a very high standard. She's a very good cat.
If you don't know about this cat, chat, any one of the people who have gone to D&D in a castle in the UK have pictures of this cat up on their Instagram.
And Poppet does have an Instagram account.
I didn't know that.
I think it's Poppet Lumley Castle or something like that. I know I follow her. She's one of the few animals that I follow on Instagram.
Well, now
there's lots of options, but I only selected Poppet.
Well, now it'll be my friend's dog and the castle cat.
Same. I follow the Opera Geeks dog, the Scotty Show, and Poppet.
I forgot about that one.
So I'm sorry.
Dogs.
I should mention I also follow a French bulldog named B the Frenchie, who's
Aww.
Yeah,
love it.
She is great.
All right, well, we got to start wrapping things up because we got a show coming up after this one, I believe. Don't chat, we're in the past, don't hold me to that if I'm wrong. But Mark, Tanya, if folks want to find you and what you do on the interwebs, where could they do so? Tanya, let's start with you.
You can find me everywhere as Cypher Tier, CYPHEROFTYR, streaming in the mornings now before I log into work. Things that are coming up. I'm going to the live Crit Roll show, so if you're in LA, I will see you for Candle Obscura. I'm just going because I was actually able to get tickets.
Hey.
I shot Painting Pirate to score in the tickets for us. And then if you will be at Worldcon in Glasgow, I am a guest for Glasgow Worldcon. I am running D&D for 3 Black Halflings and a couple unannounced guests. And then planning on TwitchCon US. Hopefully I get to do panels. As always, PAX Unplugged. And then if you're in Rotterdam, I'm just coming over to hang out and go to TwitchCon EU and go to a cafe or two.
Heck yeah, you are traveling around.
Amazing what having a day job that pays you well.
Mark, what about you?
You could find me on Instagram at Mr. Mark Meir, that's Mr. Mark Meir, and on what used to be Shambling Corpse of Twitter as Mark_Meir. The stuff that's coming up, I'm going to be at GameCon Canada, and I'm going to be running some games that are open to the public for participation, along with Deborah Ann Wall and Jason Azevedo. That is at GameCon Canada in June, next month. I mentioned D&D in a castle, but of course that is sold out, so keep your eyes on their socials for future events. And I should mention that I am the keeper of arcane lore for the recently released Graveyards of Arkham. That is a Call of Cthulhu actual play that's available on Chaosium's YouTube channel. We did it in 6 parts, and all 6 parts of that are available, and it's a prequel. That would be Bookshops of Arkham. I also serve as the keeper of arcane lore for that. That is also on Chaosium's YouTube channel.
Heck yeah. I cannot wait to see what location in Arkham the 3rd one is in.
I'm really pulling for haberdasheries of Arkham.
I was going for like museums of Arkham, but now I'm all in for haberdashery. But yes, thank you both so much for taking the time to talk with me today. And chat, be sure to go grab Jack the Pumpkin Sprout in shop right now and help to take this and the amazing cause that they are working for. But that's going to do it for this week's episode of Idle Insight. So until next week, take care of yourself.
Happy halfway to Halloween.